Close your eyes and imagine the coldest winter Europe had seen in decades. Snow falling silently over endless pine forests. Temperatures dropping far below freezing. A quiet white landscape hiding something deadly beneath it. It is December 1944. American soldiers in thin uniforms stand shivering in the Ardennes, a place that will soon become one of the deadliest battlefields of World War II. This is the story of the Battle of the Bulge, and how ordinary soldiers survived a winter designed to kill them. In early December 1944, the Western Front felt strangely calm. American troops, mostly young men, many facing their first winter in Europe, rested in small villages across the Ardennes forest. They set up campfires, drank coffee, sent letters home. Some even decorated Christmas trees with whatever they could find. Many believed the war was almost over. Germany seemed on the edge of collapse. But under that peaceful blanket of snow, an army was gathering. Hitler was planning his last desperate gamble, a surprise offensive that would break the Allied lines and change the course of the war. The target? The American forces in the Ardennes. On December 16th, at 5:30 a.m., the winter sky exploded. Thousands of German artillery guns opened fire simultaneously. The ground shook. Snow blew off trees like storms of white dust. Soldiers ran for trenches, boots slipping on frozen mud. Then came the tanks, panthers and tigers, rolling through the forest like iron monsters. American soldiers were shocked. Visibility was almost zero. Radio communication was failing. Planes couldn't fly because of the heavy snow. The cold was so intense that machine guns froze. Rifle bolts jammed. Medics' bandages turned stiff like wood. The winter itself became a weapon. Survival didn't just mean dodging bullets. It meant surviving temperatures that dropped to -20 degrees Celsius, -4 degrees Fahrenheit. American soldiers wore thin wool coats, simple leather boots, cotton gloves, almost no waterproof gear. Many had come from warm states like Texas, California, or Georgia. They had never experienced a winter like this. They fought frostbite daily, fingers turning white, toes losing sensation, skin cracking, soldiers unable to reload rifles because hands went numb. Some men slept standing up because the frozen ground caused hypothermia within minutes. The forest was silent, except for coughing, teeth chattering, and the distant rumble of German tanks. At the center of this freezing nightmare was the town of Bastogne. The 101st Airborne Division, the Screaming Eagles, and small tank units held the town against overwhelming German forces. They had almost no ammunition, no winter clothing, hardly any medical supplies, little food, no reinforcements. They were surrounded. One soldier said, "Cold was the real enemy. The Germans were just part of the problem." Trees shattered from frost. Boots froze to the ground. Foxholes filled with ice. Yet morale stayed alive. When the Germans demanded surrender, General McAuliffe replied with one word: nuts. It became a symbol of American defiance in the harshest conditions imaginable. Most soldiers spent days, sometimes weeks, sleeping in foxholes carved into frozen soil. Inside a foxhole, body heat was your only heater. Food froze solid. Water turned to ice instantly. Snow drifted inside every hour. Guns needed constant warming to function. To stay alive, soldiers shared blankets, slept in shifts, burned small pieces of wood for seconds at a time, wrapped rags around their feet, kept moving to prevent frostbite. Letters home were frozen stiff. Coffee froze before reaching their lips. One soldier wrote, "My feet hurt more than enemy bullets ever did." As the siege dragged on, supplies ran dangerously low. Food rations dropped to almost nothing. For many days, soldiers ate one chocolate bar, a handful of crackers, or nothing at all. Ammunition was equally scarce. Medics fought with desperation. Morphine syringes froze. Plasma bags froze. Their hands froze. Wounded men whispered from the cold rather than the pain. Despite all this, nobody surrendered. Nobody gave up. They held the line. While the 101st Airborne held out in Bastogne, General George S. Patton made a historic move. He turned his entire army, 250,000 soldiers, 90 degrees in the middle of winter, and marched them toward Bastogne. Through ice, snow, frozen rivers, destroyed roads. They marched. Many soldiers said the cold was worse than the fighting, but they kept going. On December 26th, Patton's forces broke through the German lines. Bastogne was relieved. The Americans had survived the worst winter of the war. Over time, soldiers developed survival tricks, wearing newspapers inside their uniforms for insulation, using candles to warm rifle bolts, filling boots with straw, wrapping hands with torn blankets, sleeping in pairs to prevent freezing, heating food cans with body heat, creating makeshift winter coats from parachute material. None of this guaranteed survival, but it kept them alive long enough to fight. Despite having better winter uniforms, German soldiers also struggled. They lacked fuel. Tanks froze. Horses collapsed from exhaustion. Wounded men died quickly from the cold. Frostbite spread on both sides. One German medic noted, "The forest killed more men than bullets." Both armies were fighting the same brutal enemy. Winter itself, by January 1945, the German offensive had stalled. They ran out of fuel, ran out of men, ran out of time. American forces pushed back hard, closing the Bulge in the front lines that gave the battle its name. The cost was enormous. 80,000 American casualties, 100,000 German casualties, thousands of frostbite injuries, entire villages destroyed, forests reduced to splinters. But the Allies won. The Battle of the Bulge became Germany's last major offensive of World War II. After that winter, the end of the war was inevitable. When veterans spoke about the Battle of the Bulge, most didn't talk about bullets. They talked about the cold. They remembered frozen boots, the smell of wet wool, nights without sleep, fireless foxholes, frost-bitten fingers, friends who never woke up, hope that arrived with Patton's army. One veteran said, "I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of freezing." The winter left scars deeper than wounds. The Battle of the Bulge showed the world the resilience of soldiers, the importance of determination, the power of unity under extreme conditions. That winter can be as deadly as any army. The men who survived that frozen battlefield did more than win a battle. They preserved the march toward victory in Europe. They endured hunger, frostbite, exhaustion, fear, and still held the line. Their story is not just about war. It is about survival, brotherhood, sacrifice, and the human spirit facing the harshest winter in decades. The snow buried many things that winter, but not their courage.